You wake up in the middle of the night feeling an eerie stillness in the air. The room is dark, silent, yet something is off. You glance at the clock, but for a split second, the numbers seem to blur, shifting between possibilities before snapping back into place. You blink, shake your head, and dismiss it as exhaustion. But what if, in that fleeting moment, you caught a glimpse of reality unraveling? There's a reason some of the brightest minds in science struggle to sleep at night. Not because they don't understand the universe, but because they do. Beneath the surface of what we call reality, a hidden world lurks, defying logic, playing by rules so strange they seem ripped from a nightmare. And the more we uncover, the more disturbing it becomes. One key idea sends shivers through the scientific world. Reality is not fixed. It flickers, shifts, and might not even exist until it is observed. Imagine flipping a coin, but instead of landing on heads or tails, it exists as both until the very moment you look at it. This isn't science fiction. This is quantum mechanics. The very fabric of existence refuses to settle into a definite state unless it's being watched. If that sounds absurd, it gets worse. Experiments show that even particles can change their past based on what happens in the future. The present, the past, and the future. Twisting, merging, rewriting themselves like a story that hasn't been fully written yet. But if reality depends on observation, who or what is watching when we aren't? This is where the fear creeps in. It's one thing for quantum strangeness to govern the microscopic world of particles, but what if it scales up? What if the rules that keep reality stable, keep you stable, aren't as solid as they seem? If particles blink in and out of existence, could entire moments, entire people do the same? And yet, despite all the unsettling implications, we see order in our everyday lives. The sun rises, the coffee brews, the world moves forward as expected. But is it because reality is stable, or because we expect it to be? Some scientists whisper that our belief in a consistent world might be the very thing holding it together. You sit still, staring at the wall, your mind caught in the gravity of an unsettling thought. What happens if we stop believing? For a moment, the room around you feels less solid, like the air itself is holding its breath. The weight of reality, something you've always trusted without question, suddenly seems fragile. A thin sheet of ice stretched over unknown depths. But surely reality is real, whether we observe it or not, right? Not necessarily. Deep in the heart of quantum physics, another unsettling truth emerges, one that scientists can't ignore. What we see as reality might just be a product of probabilities, collapsing into certainty only when forced to make a choice. Picture a flashlight in a pitch-black room. Wherever you shine it, the darkness gives way to clarity. But outside that beam, the room is still uncertain, undefined, waiting to take shape. Now, replace the room with the entire universe. If no one is looking at a particular part of it, does it even exist in a definite state? This isn't just a thought experiment. Scientists have tested it. Particles sent through a barrier behave like scattered waves, smearing into multiple places at once. But the moment they are measured, when an observer enters the equation, they snap into a single fixed position. It's as if the act of looking forces reality to make a choice, as if the world around us isn't a physical thing, but a question waiting for an answer. And this leads to something even more disturbing. What happens to the possibilities that don't get chosen? If a particle could have landed somewhere else but didn't, does that unrealized version of events simply vanish? Or does it split away, continuing on in some unseen branch of reality? Some theories suggest that every moment of choice creates a fork in existence, where all possible outcomes unfold separately. Right now, in another version of events, you're reading this sentence in a slightly different way. In yet another, you never clicked on this at all. This isn't just a strange curiosity. It calls into question the very nature of identity. If reality itself is branching endlessly, then who or what are you? You think back to the choices you've made today, the ones that seemed trivial. What if, in another unseen world, a version of you took a different path, lived a different life, became someone unrecognizable? And if those other versions of you exist, does that mean your sense of self is just an illusion, one fragment of a much larger, ever-splitting consciousness? The thought lingers as you glance around your room, suddenly aware of the space between things, the silence pressing in. The world still looks the same, feels the same, but now you can't help but wonder, is it watching me, or am I the one keeping it here? The room is still, silent, yet something feels different. The very space around you, the objects resting where they always have, the air pressing gently against your skin, none of it seems quite as certain as it did just moments ago. You reach for an object nearby, a pen, familiar, solid, but the thought lingers. Is it truly there when I'm not looking? It sounds absurd, something that shouldn't belong outside a science fiction story. And yet science itself tells us otherwise. Reality does not exist in a definite state until it is observed. But here's where the mystery deepens. If reality is uncertain until it is measured, what happens when two things are linked, when observing one instantly affects the other, even across vast distances? This is where quantum entanglement enters the stage, and with it, one of the most unsettling revelations in modern physics. Imagine two coins, miles apart. Flip one, and the outcome of the other is already determined, as if some invisible force is linking them, whispering what to become. But these aren't just coins, they're particles, and they can be light years away from each other. Change one, and the other responds instantly, faster than any signal could travel, faster than the speed of light itself. Something is happening outside the boundaries of time and space. An unseen connection exists between things, defying distance itself. This discovery sent shockwaves through science. If particles can be so deeply intertwined that distance doesn't matter, what does that mean for the fabric of reality? What if, beneath everything we see, all things are linked, every object, every thought, every choice? And here's the most unsettling part. You are made of these same particles, your body, your mind, your very awareness, woven from the same invisible threads of connection. Could it be that what we experience as separate is merely an illusion? That everything is bound together in ways we can't yet comprehend? Some experiments hint at something even stranger, suggesting that time itself may not be what we think. When entangled particles are measured, their connection appears to stretch not just across space, but across time. A choice made now could, in some way, influence something that has already happened. This isn't just a riddle for physicists. If time and space are connected in ways we barely understand, then the very idea of cause and effect, of past leading to present, starts to crack. Could the choices you make today ripple backward as well as forward? You set the pen down carefully, almost as if testing reality itself. It sits there, motionless, right where you left it. But now, the world feels different. Not in a way you can see, but in a way you sense. A nagging thought lingers, deep in the corners of your mind. If everything is connected, then what exactly is watching through my eyes? For a long time, humans believed that consciousness was separate from the physical world, that thoughts existed in a space beyond the reach of atoms and forces. But quantum physics is beginning to suggest something far stranger. What if consciousness and reality are not separate at all, but two sides of the same mystery? Consider this. The universe behaves one way when unobserved, existing as a blur of probabilities. But the moment it's measured, when something or someone takes notice, it snaps into a definite state. It is as if awareness itself is part of the machinery that turns the possible into the real. Some scientists now wonder, is this connection just a coincidence, or does the act of observing play a much deeper role in shaping the world around us? If that sounds too abstract, think about a dream. When you're asleep, the dream world feels real, but it exists only because your mind is there to experience it. The moment you wake up, the dream dissolves. What if, at some level, reality works the same way? What if what we call the physical world is not something separate from us, but something that depends on us? Here's where things take an even stranger turn. A handful of experiments have suggested that human intention alone might influence the behavior of particles, as if the mere act of thinking about something can shift reality on a quantum level. When researchers tested whether a person's focus could subtly affect random particle behavior, some results were too unusual to ignore. But if thought can alter particles and particles make up everything, what does that mean for the nature of the universe itself? Could it be that reality isn't just passively observed, but actively shaped by the very thing trying to understand it? If true, this would rewrite everything we assume about existence. It would mean that consciousness isn't just something inside us. It is something woven into the fabric of reality itself. The observer and the observed, no longer separate. A question forms in your mind, one that won't leave. If reality depends on observation, what happens when no one is looking? You glance around the room. Everything appears normal. But now you can't shake the feeling that the world is waiting, that reality itself is holding its breath. And for the first time you wonder, am I simply witnessing the universe, or am I the one creating it? You look down at your hands. Solid. Real. But the deeper you go into quantum physics, the more the certainty of realness begins to crack. If everything exists as a blur of possibilities until observed, then what exactly is holding you together? Scientists have spent decades probing this question, and the answers they've found are unsettling. At the smallest level, everything that makes up your body, your skin, your bones, your thoughts, is composed of subatomic particles. But here's the catch. These particles aren't little specks of matter sitting still in space. They are waves of probability, flickering between existence and non-existence, uncertain, undefined, until something forces them to take shape. And the deeper you look, the stranger it gets. If you could zoom in far enough, past the molecules, past the atoms, all the way down to the quantum world, you would find nothing. Or rather, something that behaves like nothing. At this scale, the particles that make up you aren't solid at all. They are patterns, relationships, information. That's the terrifying part. Matter itself might not even exist in the way we assume. The chair you sit on, the ground beneath your feet, even the sensation of touch. These all feel solid, but they are just the result of invisible forces interacting. When you push against a wall, you are not actually touching it. The electrons in your hand repel the electrons in the wall, creating an illusion of solidity. So if reality is not made of stuff, then what is it made of? More and more, physicists are coming to a mind-bending conclusion. The universe behaves less like a physical structure and more like a vast, unfolding computation. Think of a video game. The world inside it isn't pre-existing. It is rendered only when the player turns their attention to a new scene. What if the universe works the same way? What if, instead of a solid, unchanging world, reality is more like a flow of information, continuously processing, continuously calculating, waiting for an observer to bring it into focus? This idea isn't just theoretical. Some experiments suggest that the universe may operate on a kind of code, with patterns eerily similar to the ones found in human-made computing systems. If this is true, then the world around you is not a physical place, but a vast, dynamic system of data, endlessly folding and unfolding in response to observation. Which leads to the ultimate question. If the universe is computing reality, then who or what is running the program? You close your eyes. The world disappears. But somewhere, behind the darkness of your eyelids, behind the hum of your thoughts, a feeling arises, a quiet knowing that refuses to be ignored. Reality is not just something you exist within. Reality is something that responds to you. But if that's true, if the universe itself only takes form when observed, then a terrifying question emerges. What happens when we go beyond just observing? What if we are also shaping? For centuries, humanity believed that reality was an unchanging backdrop, a stage upon which existence unfolded. But quantum physics has shattered that illusion. The deeper scientists probe, the more they uncover a truth that is both exhilarating and unsettling. The universe does not operate like a clockwork machine. It behaves like a mind. Think about it. In the quantum world, particles remain in a state of possibility, existing in multiple states at once, until they are measured, as if waiting for a conscious observer to decide what is real. Entangled particles can communicate instantaneously, as though distance and time mean nothing. And at the most fundamental level, the very building blocks of existence behave less like solid objects and more like shifting waves of information, responding to attention itself. It's as if the universe is not an unconscious machine grinding forward, but something far stranger, a self-aware system constantly interacting with itself. And here's where things take a final, unsettling turn. If the act of observation influences reality, what does that say about you, your body, your brain? Your very thoughts are made of these same uncertain particles, flickering in and out of existence, entangled with everything else. You are not separate from this quantum reality. You are it, which means the boundary between the observer and the observed may not exist at all. For the first time, you begin to see the full picture, the reason reality holds together when you expect it to, the way attention itself seems to shape outcomes. The whispers of quantum physics hinting that everything is connected, that everything is conscious, that existence is not something happening to you, but something flowing through you. The final realization crashes over you like a wave. Reality is not something you witness. It is something you participate in. The world around you no longer seems fixed, no longer feels like something external and distant. It is fluid, shifting, alive, a vast quantum system responding in real time, not just to observation, but to intention, to expectation, to you. So the question is no longer what is real. The question is, what will you create? If this changed how you see reality, share your thoughts in the comments. What possibilities do you see now? Subscribe for more mind-expanding truths. You've only just begun to glimpse the hidden nature of the universe.